Hi, young professionals. This is Patricia Climbs, the chair of the Safety Young Professionals for 2020, and here we are today at Bayboro Brewing with James Coleman, who is the owner of Bayboro Brewing, and this is one of our newest brewery, locally owned, that recently opened in March of 2020, which is when all the craziness with the COVID-19 pandemic started. So we thought it would be a really cool opportunity for us to be able to talk to a young local entrepreneur about his experience of opening a new business in our lovely city. So we're going to start with a few questions. James, just kind of giving you a little bit of a chance to introduce yourself to our audience.
James Coleman, like she said, owner of Bayboro Brewing for 8 months now, I guess, maybe a little less since we opened in March. Been trying to get this project off the ground for a few years. Prior serviceman, U.S. Marine Corps, father of 2 lovely kids, and married for 5 years now to my lovely wife that's local.
Cool. So you mentioned that you recently opened a business. Did you have a business plan or a strategic plan prior to opening the brewery? How did you go about doing that?
Absolutely. I think, well, one, we first tried to go through the SBA and the Veteran Associations for loans. That's mandatory that you have a business plan provided, but before that it was an automatic to build a strong business plan years before. I think we did it a year before we actually started looking for property to ensure that the money made sense, that the brewery market was going to sustain, and what could it sustain in the sense of overhead costs, how many employees could I provide, what was my personal budget that I could allocate, and what was I expecting for revenue per month, per year, to kind of give me a baseline understanding of what I needed as a company to get it off the ground, so it can scope out. You think you have an idea of the amount that you need for a loan or just working capital, but until you get it on paper and build that business plan out, you see things that you never would have noticed. Of course, it's always the electric and stuff like that, but then there's the insurance pieces, then there's property taxes, it's compounding when you really start getting into it. Where you're just like, yeah, I'll just scope out $5,000 for X, Y, or Z. It's more than that, and I brought in consultants to do it with me because I knew that there was too many variables that I wasn't paying attention to, so they were able to discuss other breweries around the nation and kind of give me some ideas of what to expect and what to watch, pitfalls to watch out for in the process. So I was able to allocate more funds in places that I didn't have enough, and then also reduce budget where I might have inflated it too much. So.
Yeah, no, that's definitely important, and bringing in someone for that has that expertise,
sure,
that can help you build out the numbers, the budget, comparisons with local businesses that are experiencing sort of the similar overhead expenses and revenue forecasting and all that.
When you're looking at it, some people might say, well, I don't want to pay $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, to bring somebody on just to consult you. Well, then, in my personal opinion, I don't think you're ready to make that step into starting a business.
Right. So you think it's an important investment?
It's absolutely one of the most. It's one of many important pieces to build the foundation of what you're trying to do in any business. To make sure that you fully understand what you're diving into.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So I understand that you have a marketing background as well?
I do. Digital, yes ma'am.
Okay. Digital
marketing.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. So how were you able to benefit and use that digital marketing background to build your brand? What does it take to build a brand nowadays?
Oh, geez. Well, from my personal experience, branding to us is everything, and providing a proper marketing, images and a sound brand, to your point, is very important for us because of what we saw, how it affected businesses that we worked with in digital marketing. Successful brands, I mean, the imagery, the slogan alone, it instantly reacts to people. And it's personal, we talk about it every day at work, it's personalization and customization. I want to personally talk to you, and who's my audience? My audience is, whoever your audience is. Bayboro's is St. Pete. That's breweries are local community-driven establishments here to support that community. So why would I call it Coleman's Brewery when people aren't going to react to that? They're just looking at it as, that's just another guy trying to take a dollar, where it's not. Bayboro is the entity of St. Pete, and I hope it gives people an attachment to it and want to be a part of something and have a piece of Bayboro, because it's not, like I said before, it's not my business, it's the community's business. This business will be, Bayboro Brewing will be successful through the community. I'm not here to take people's money, I'm here to give an event space and give, entertainment to the people of, Palmetto Park, downtown, whichever. So, the brand itself, I mean, it's obvious Bayboro is the local, harbor. People probably thought of St. Pete Harbor, but it kind of resonated because it attached some military background to myself. Then it was coloring, then it was scripting, what do we feel? So it wasn't just my wife and I go, hey, yeah, we're just gonna call it Bayboro. It was, we brought in friends of ours in digital marketing, creative designers, paid them, and said, okay, what do we want to do? What resonates? Okay, we found, Preston helped us find the name, and then we started getting into creative elements of it. Okay, well, do we like verses? Do we like block? Okay, well, what's St. Pete? Vintage. Okay, now we're into vintage kind of, neon lettering and so forth.
So you tune that into your audience, which is the St. Pete community.
Sure, absolutely. And and then there's the military, like I said, there's military heritage behind, the pin up that talks to me a little bit without, being too aggressive about it. So, it's all those elements, but we're talking things that I did 3 years ago for a building that I opened a few months ago. So the brand was built, and the elements of the brand and the marketing was set up prior to even being open. There was people at like homebrew events asking us, where we were open at, and they thought we were a brick and mortar already, just because of how much effort we put into it, because we knew it was important, basically.
You're saying that it took you 3 years in the building before you even actually opened the business?
So yes, 3 years ago we attempted to open the business on a piece of property by buying versus leasing. Opens up a whole new can of worms that I wasn't experiencing through environmental inspections. I'm sure you're, about.
Permits.
Right. So after multiple pieces of property fell through, and multiple times regrouping my wife and I and deciding, do we want to keep pushing forward? All the while these things are going on. We're building artwork, we're building video. Preston was posting videos 3 years ago from us under a tent doing brews, building that fan base. We were Bayboro, we just didn't have a place for Bayboro. So, that gave us an opportunity to have people support us before we had a brick and mortar location, so that we had a little bit of fan base to start with, and we weren't just open our doors day one expecting a couple hundred people to walk through here and be like, yeah, it's Bayboro. No one knows us from anyone down the street. So.
Right, very important. And build a fan base then prior to actually opening.
For retail, I think it's important. Yeah.
Right. And so what would you say are some key takeaways, advice that you could give to young entrepreneurs that are looking to open a new business?
Well, that's tricky. patience. I mean, I don't have it, but you know, I still feel young. I'm at 38 years old. I believe that I through mentors that I had, either my father-in-law as my landlord, you know, Mike from 3 Daughters, I always used my network of the, you know, perfect example of it. You know, I went to Mike day one and he had a course in St. Pete to teach people how to become a brewer. I couldn't qualify for it because he had like a Chem background, and I took like, you know, liberal arts math or something like that at USF. Anyhow, I didn't have the prereqs. He said, "Come on over and let's talk." So literally, I emailed him. He brought me over. We went through my business plan. You know, he let me know some of the things that he experienced, and he kind of set me up to go, "This is what you're going to be expected to see. This is going to take you at least a year, 2 years. Don't get frustrated, but scope that out." You know, so then it was, you know, certain things, aspects that my father-in-law brought me that I learned about, you know. So it really became more humbling because I thought, okay, I'm gonna open a business in 6 months. You know, that was about the dumbest thing I could ever thought. People are like, well, when do you think you're gonna open? I'm like, 6 months. You know, I didn't know. I thought you'd go buy a piece of commercial property, you know, put an AC in it, and voila, you've got, you know, I didn't know anything about permitting through the city, blah, blah, blah. So
you were aggressive about it first.
I was
and
really
then learned. But it was great to see that another locally owned St. Pete business was willing to sit down with you.
Sure.
With all that experience and success, to be able to just sit down with you and share all that information.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because that's exactly what our St. Pete community is about.
Right. It's pay it forward. I mean, I only know the brewery business side. And I know what my experiences were and the experiences that I will always share with people trying to open any type of business. You know, if you want to come in and look at my books and learn, you know, our doors are open. And people come to Mike because of the same reason. And that's something that he instilled in me. He didn't tell me to do it. I just know I'm going to do it because that's what I want to do for others. You know, it's that salt of the earth community feel where, hey, watch out. This is what you need to look for. This is what might happen down the road. But then, you know, just having your own personal perseverance to go through it and go, I mean, this is a 100-point checklist, but tackle it one at a time. And who cares how long it takes you, you know, just one a month or 1 in 6 months, however your pace is, you know, as long as you're going, right.
Yeah.
And you run into, there was a couple times where it was like, let's just give it up. Like, it's not worth it. But, you know, those are the types of people that won't have a business. And if you don't push through it, you'll never see success in my personal opinion, because you're gonna have issues. I mean, we're working through COVID right now, you know? So, you know, if you don't find a way to make it work, you'll never be as successful as you could be, in my eyes.
Right, you can just push through it, right? Kind of like a workout, just push through
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
So, and you mentioned COVID. So how has that impacted the business? Obviously, we know that it has impacted the business on a macro level, but like operationally, are you following like the CDC guidelines, OSHA? Like, how has that impacted your day-to-day operations?
What's interesting is I personally believe a lot of breweries have had high standards and expectations of themselves on sanitation and cleanliness and safety, because you're dealing with
Health department.
right, and alcohol, and it's got to be like, you can't allow.
Right. The alcohol permit.
Sure.
And all that,
Yeah.
right?
You know, and there's a lot of things you have to watch out for with, you know, you've got to keep sanitation outside, and you can't allow oxygen or any other kind of elements come in because it will ruin your product.
Right.
So you're always conscientious about cleanliness, like got to have gloves on, got to do this, got to do that. I think it fell in line with a lot of our philosophies, and you know, we enact things like, you know, the foot. I've had more people that tell me about the foot grab versus the handle. So you can grab the restroom door with your foot and pull it open without having to actually touch something. And it's just little elements of that. Like, you know, we'll probably install IR they're IR, basically a machine that goes in your AC, and as the air comes through, it zaps.
It filters it.
Sure, and it
Yeah.
kills all the the bios or whatever, whatever's in the air.
Yeah, they have that that's like hospital level.
Sure, yeah.
Air filtering essentially, right?
But those are things that I think that we should be doing. Like, we had sanitation.
In general.
Yeah, we've had a hand sanitizer, before COVID, because that's just like, you should be doing that as a human being, in my opinion.
Right.
So, but we have layered in other things, like obviously masking up before we open. We're always wiping tables, cleaning tables after they're done. We bleach pretty much all surface areas at night. So, we try to do our part and make sure that, everybody's staying safe and healthy in here. Obviously, our social distancing guidelines and things of that nature are in effect as well. Just do your best you can while also trying to sustain business. So it's a very delicate dance,
Yeah.
you have to be careful.
Balancing. Awesome.
Right.
Well, great to hear. Okay, guys, so now we're gonna go backstage and check out some of the brewing process and how we go about doing that. Just check out this next part.
Basically what the guys are doing right now is they're heating up the boil kettle here in the middle. And they're going to be, once it gets into the right temperature, Preston and Adam will transfer through the pump into the wort here. And then that's basically how your beer is first created, if you will. So it sits in here, we drain it out, go right back to the boil kettle, and then we let it boil for anywhere from 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 120 minutes. Kind of like where you get the Dogfish Head 60, 90, 120 is more about the boil time. So from that, about 6 hours later through the process, once we're done, we're going to take it from this container into your fermenters, which are right here. So we have 5 fermenters that always have beer pretty much going in it in a fermentation process. So we'll take this pump and sanitize all the lines. Come straight into the fermenter, put in the fermenter, and then we'll let it ferment at a 70, 75 degree, depending on the beer style. And then this process can take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. So once it's ready, we'll cold crash it, and we'll keg it. That's the long and short of it.
All right, welcome everybody. So this is the mashing process where we mix the grains with some hot water. It'll soak in here for about 45 minutes to an hour. And the starches from these grains will convert to sugar, which is what our yeasty friends like to eat to convert alcohol.